Cinemajaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store. And we thank them for their support. You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is
Rye the Movie Guy, and sitting alongside us, as always, is Filmy and Phil.
How are we doing tonight, everybody?
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, among other things, we are going to talk about movie scenes that make us squeamish.
Yeah, I mean, there is a bunch. And by the way, let me just save all the jawheads some nausea. Don't Google that, okay? Because the lists are not pleasant. I watched this scene. I hope this isn't on anyone's list from Gerald's Game, the degloving scene where she slips out of the handcuffs. Oof.
I don't even know the scene.
Okay, don't bother.
Did you scream?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I consider myself a seasoned horror fan, and that one got me. It was a pretty good special effect. It was really gross.
All right. Well, I can't wait to hear what else is on your list here, Matt Kay.
Indeed.
We also have a great guest who's going to be joining us this week.
Yeah, Shayna Feinberg is with us. She has a new series coming out called DINETTE Season 2. She's a filmmaker from New York. Can't wait to talk to her.
Yes. Excited to talk to Shayna. Besides that, we have more going on, don't we, Phil?
Yeah, it's still Clint Eastwood month, so we're going to be coming at you like we always do with a new clip and a new fact.
And we have a review of Oscar Isaac's latest, The Card Counter.
In honor of Clint Eastwood, who we're celebrating all month of September, I thought this is a good time, Matt, for you to take Shayna on in Clint Eastwood movie trivia. And since the multiple choice format worked so well last week, I decided to go back to it again.
He just didn't want to have to write clues.
Yeah.
We know his game.
You guys know me too well. No, I was actually upset at how sloppy of a trivia that was. I apologize now, Jawheads. So I cleaned it up. We are going to do multiple choice again. I'll explain it when we get there. It's going to go much smoother this time. I promise.
All right. Well, if not, I'll call the man with no name to come and get you.
Plus, we had got a lot of feedback, both on Facebook and Twitter, about a comment you made last episode, Matt. And it's only been out for since we're recording this one early, I think the episode's only been out for like 2 days. And we've already heard from multiple people complaining about your comment about the editing Oscar is a pity Oscar.
To be fair, I did goad them.
It was ridiculous.
Who complained, Ryan? You're making up stories now. Nobody complained.
Yes,
there have
already been complaints on this stupid comment, and I'm sick of apologizing for you.
Well, hey, I have the perfect solution. Why don't we just have a cinema war on it and let Shayna be the judge of whether or not the editing Oscar is a pity Oscar?
Okay, Matt, this is the easiest cinema war I am ever going to win.
You just wait, buddy. You ready? Cinema War.
You're going down, Matt Kay.
I don't think so. We'll see. We'll see.
I think so. All right.
This is the most excited I've been for a Cinema War in a while, I have to say.
Well, I think I'm going to win this thing. I have to bring bullet points. I'm going to win this one. All right. Before we bring Shayna on, we are celebrating Clint Eastwood. Let's start there with a Clint Eastwood fact.
Yes. So, A Fistful of Dollars, the Clint Eastwood film, was directly adapted from Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo. It was even, so much so that it was subject to a lawsuit by the producers of Yojimbo. The Yojimbo's protagonist bears a very, very striking resemblance to Eastwood's character. There's a lot of similarities. They're both very gruff. They're very quiet. They're kind of eccentric strangers. But they're also the lawman, and they have a very strong sense of justice each. And they have a very, very strong proficiency with a certain kind of weapon. And it's striking how similar the films are.
I didn't know that. Did you know that, Rye?
I didn't.
Have you seen Yojimbo?
I have not.
It's been a
I
long
share
time.
the name with the dude, and I didn't even know that.
It's been a long time since I've seen either film, to be fair. Probably, maybe 20 years.
Since we've been celebrating Clint Eastwood, I've been looking up all these older Westerns. I mean, I need to do a whole month of just looking at old Westerns, but Clint Eastwood in particular, there's a ton I still need to see of his older films. So,
yeah, there's some good ones in there for sure.
All right. Let's get this jaw rolling, Matt. Without further ado, we bring in our guest. Shayna Feinberg has made a web series entitled DINETTE. It is entering its second season. Shayna, welcome to Cinemajaw.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
We were talking a little bit before we hit record. You're in New York.
Mm-hmm.
You stayed dry. Yeah. Everything's good on your end. Good.
Yeah, we were lucky. Very lucky.
Nice.
So I was lucky enough, speaking of lucky, to watch the first episode of season 2 of DINETTE today. And if you could tell the Jawheads the idea of this, it's sort of a riff on the movie Diner, correct?
Yeah, totally. So when I was growing up, I watched all these movies and always identified with the male characters, including the movie Diner, which I love that movie. There's some problematic moments, like the popcorn dick scene. Oops, I was told not to curse, but that was
okay. It's fine.
Curse. Anyway, but I watched that movie as a kid, and I just loved like Steve Guttenberg's character and Kevin Bacon. I just loved every character and felt like these are me, these guys. And so when I became a filmmaker, I often I do a lot of gender swapping in my movies and the things I make. And when I got to pitch season 1 of DINETTE, I just pitched it as Diner, but with women and gender nonconforming people. And this local TV station called BRIC TV, they greenlit it. And I basically just kind of riffed off of, like you said, the movie Diner. And then I got to do season 2, and it's just continuing with those characters who are all sort of like based on the characters from Diner and the idea of just, these friends hanging out.
So when you have this success from the first season, do the fans sort of gravitate toward like one character, one set of characters? Is there like a standout favorite?
I'd say there's a couple. Well, from season 1, people really loved Mick, who's played by Dre Campbell. And she's based on the Mickey Rourke character from Diner. People loved her. And people loved Maeve Higgins, who is an Irish comedian, and she played Nora in season 1. Some other people loved Mona Chalabi's character. She's Lucille, this like British journalist who's very naive. So those were kind of like the standouts. But people in general really just, they liked the vibe of, I think I make nice comedy, like my characters all like each other. And so I think people liked that aspect of it.
It's sort of refreshing.
Yeah, I think, who does that well is Paul Feig.
Yeah.
I love his stuff, and I feel like he, in general, not that there's no drama or there's no stakes or there's not like, I don't know,
tension and
but his characters are nicer than a lot of other characters.
Sure. I noticed the dialogue very, very quick. It's witty. Is there improvised going on there, or everybody's sticking more or less to the script?
More or less, it's sticking to the script. With we did have a budget for both seasons, which we were really lucky to have. But it was a lot to film in the amount of time. So everyone kind of came in with their lines memorized, and we practiced a lot. We do this thing called an Italian, which is before you start filming, everyone just does their lines really, really fast, like not worrying about delivery or anything, and just really, really quickly. And then that way, when you're doing it, it's like, I think it helps people memorize the lines and make them seem more natural.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
I think it must be, a theater exercise. Like my husband, Chris, is an actor and he taught me the technique. So, and he comes originally from live theater. So I think it must have started in theater. But yeah, we use it. And so like while they're setting up the lights and the cameras and like getting everything ready, the people are just going back and forth really quickly. And then it really does help things seem more natural. Because people aren't really like reaching for their lines. They're like sort of in them now. They know them. But yeah, anyways. So
is it shot in a real diner?
Yes, yeah. Sadly, the diner closed during the pandemic. Yeah, but no. It was shot. Season 1 was shot at Queen's Comfort, and then they moved a few blocks away, and we shot season 2 in the new location of Queen's Comfort, and then they closed during the pandemic. But it was a beautiful diner, and very unique, and like Christmas lights everywhere and tons of knickknacks. It's just this one guy's collection of things. So it was great because it was just already set designed, you know. Like I had originally imagined a more like normal diner with those, you know, those seats that are glossy, like But then when we went around scouting locations, we saw Queen's Comfort, and it was just so cool looking and so warm inside. And it just felt like, oh, I won't have to do anything. I can just, you know, set up.
Just come in and light it and go. Yeah.
Yeah. And we barely lit the first season. We had some China balls, but because of all the Christmas lights, it was very easy to not have to rely too much on lights.
Going back, you mentioned earlier in the conversation that you watched a bunch of movies as a kid. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious, what movies did you watch? What was the one that made you decide I'm going to be a filmmaker? You
know, I'll be honest, I didn't know that women could be directors. Like I'm just old enough that I really didn't know that. Like I loved Pink Panther and Mel Brooks and
oh yeah.
And forgive me, but I loved Woody Allen. I loved, you know, like Diner. And I grew up watching all those movies, and I just really didn't know that. I swear to you, did not know that women directed films. And when I was in my early 20s, my first job was at the New York Observer out of college, and I met my friend Julie Showers, and the two of us started just doing pranks. Like we would go to a gallery in Chelsea that was like all paintings of women's boobs, and we would show up like stuffing our boobs really huge. And so we just did all these pranks, and we started thinking like, oh, we should make this into a public access TV show. And so when I was like 22 or 23, we started filming this show that we called The Spew, and it was stoner comedy, and we did that for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was doing that I sort of cut my teeth and started, like, we wrote and filmed and directed and edited.
Okay, when was this? If you don't mind, I'm just trying to put it on the timeline.
Yeah, it was like the early 2000s.
Okay.
Like a long time ago. And
so like before YouTube.
Yes. In fact, I mean, by the end of doing it, YouTube existed. But we were on the subway one day, and this guy was a fan of our show and was like, you know, there's this thing called YouTube. And I just remember him like telling us about it, and that we could like upload our videos to it. And we were like, whatever, you know. But it was our show. We did it for long enough, and it was on Brooklyn cable access and Manhattan, that we like got recognized constantly, like all the time. Like someone would come to like fix my stove and be like, oh my God, I watched your show. Like it was
awesome.
It was amazing. And then she got pregnant, and like we stopped, and she moved away. She moved to Portland, and I had like a total crisis, because it had been my life for 7 years, was like making this TV show. And I think that's when I started to like look into the fact that women were directors. It's so crazy. Like it was so late. And then I little by little like I started to do stand up and I did a lot of radio. And then after that, I was like, I want to make movies. And so I started making movies.
So you're a total autodidact, right? You didn't go to film school or anything like that. You just went ahead and did it.
Yeah, totally. And I was my husband, he and I met and we were both performers and we started making videos together. And then I got pregnant with my first kid and I was like, I want to make a movie. And so when I was 6 months pregnant, we started making our first feature. And then we finished it when our kid was like 6 months old. And then some people just watched the trailer, and that's how I started to get work as a director, writer director. Is like these companies would hire us just based on our trailer and being like, oh, you finished something, you made something. So, but I came very late to it because I really just had no idea. And then I started to realize, like Elaine May, I'm a huge fan of hers. And I did love Ishtar as a kid, but that was like, as a kid, that was like really the only movie that I watched that was directed by a woman. Now I have since made up for it, but yeah.
It's awesome. Wow. So for the Jawheads, our listeners that are listening and want to check out DINETTE, where do we send them online to see season 1 and season 2?
Well, they can watch at BRIC TV. That's BRICTV.org. Or you can just go to YouTube or Vimeo and type in DINETTE, DINETTE. It's on both of those platforms. And it is what they call terrestrial. Like it's also on a TV channel in New York City. So if you live in New York, it will also be airing on Monday nights on an actual TV channel, which is cool. And season 1 kind of replays all the time. So sometimes like random people I went to high school with will just text me like a photo of their giant screen TV with DINETTE on it, which is cool because I don't have Apple TV, but yeah. Can I say one movie factoid?
Oh, of course. Yes.
Go for it.
I grew up in Manhattan, and when I was a kid, the movies 9.5 Weeks and Fatal Attraction were filmed in my apartment.
Really?
Yeah, and then my mom still lives there. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That if there's anyone old enough, some people don't remember those movies, but a lot of the stuff I film is at my mom's house and it's filmed in the same apartment that those movies were filmed in.
Oh my goodness!
Glenn
now
Close with the ice pick and the rabbit.
I was just picturing Glenn Close in the bathroom.
The rabbit. That's when they had moved to like Westchester. But the other stuff in the apartment, in the Manhattan apartment, is my mom's apartment, or my parents. Now my mom.
I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too much. No pun intended here. But when that scene when they're actually selling the apartment, and then Glenn Close goes to the apartment. That's the creepiest scene in the movie for me. It's like, oh my God.
On the Oscars that year. And I was watching it, and that's my apartment door that I grew up with. It's a blue door. She comes in, and you see her little face like in the crack. Yeah, that was.
So did that terrify you? Is it when you were younger? Like, did you think Glenn Close might show up? Like,
no, because I saw it being made. Like we lived in a hotel both times for 2 months when they were filming, but we would go back to the house to pick up like every day to get the mail and whatever. And so I saw, all the dolly tracks, and I just saw the whole setup. So I knew.
It was make believe. Yeah.
And I got to meet Mickey Rourke and from 9.5 Weeks, and Michael Douglas from Fatal Attraction when I was just like a little kid. So
awesome.
I mean, that had to be part of your influence, right?
Oh, absolutely. I saw it happening, and I was like, this is so cool.
That is a great story.
That is great. I don't know what kind of camera you guys use, but the picture is so sharp. I was watching it today. I'm like, my God, they must have like a super HD camera. I don't know what you guys are using, but
that's so great. Yeah, that's good to know, because we use all these hacks, to see season 1 is actually shot just on a C100, but we added this might be really geeky, but
It's okay.
we added what's called a ninja blade, and so then it makes it look like a C300. And then for season 2 we used an Ari, a mini. But yeah, so anyway.
Well, it looks great. It's funny. So I hope the Jawheads check it out. There a small spoiler here, Matt. A character dies at the end of episode 1, season 2. Ends in a cliffhanger.
Ooh, all right. A little teaser. I like it.
Tickling you with a feather there, you know?
Yeah, and for the Jawheads, we will put all the links in the show notes too, so people can easily get to them.
Yes, absolutely. And Shayna, are you on social media? Do you want to plug a Twitter or a Facebook for the show or for yourself?
I am on Instagram, just at Shayna Feinberg. It's ShainaFeinberg. I am going to start. I'm not a major social media person, but I am about to start posting about the show since it's coming out soon.
Nice.
Shayna will be sitting in on this entire Jaw. She has her movie scene that makes her squeamish, plus a couple other bullet points we're going to get to here, Matt. But up first, the card counter. Paul Schrader is a fabulous screenwriter. He wrote 4 movies that Martin Scorsese directed, including the heavy hitters Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, and The Last Temptation of Christ. He has directed several films dating back to 1978's Blue Collar. In the early 2000s, it seemed we might not get another notable film from Schrader. But then in 2017, First Reform with Ethan Hawke happened. This put Schrader back in the spotlight. Now his follow-up film, The Card Counter, is in theaters and on HBO Max. I hit the poker table to see if this was another straight flush for Schrader.
Having been sentenced to 10 years in prison, I learned to count cards.
How'd you do that?
Poker's all about waiting.
Check, raise, re-raise, call.
Then something happens.
You remember it? This is where all the good stuff happens. They made you the fall guy.
You need to back off.
You've been around him. He's a mystery.
Oscar Isaac stars in The Card Counter as William Tell, or Will Tell. And while the name of the movie alludes to this being a story about a card player, and there are gambling scenes, the predominant theme is not about gambling or playing poker. When we meet Isaac's character, he's in prison and soon released. He's a mysterious person. For the first part of the film, you are not sure what his motivations are or where he is looking to go. He meets 2 people he begins to travel with. Kirk, played by Ty Sheridan, who is the son of a former soldier Will Tell served with in the military, and La Linda, played by Tiffany Haddish, who is backing Tell's gambling fees. We learn of a troubled past in the military when he was under the command of Major John Gordo, played by Willem Dafoe. That past starts to shape the narrative of the rest of the film. I want to be a little vague here because I think a lot of the joy I got from The Card Counter was discovering where it was going to go. Many times when you come out of these press screenings, they have someone collecting your initial thoughts. This is a film I would have trouble saying anything about right afterwards. I needed to let it stew around in my head for a bit. I needed to think about Will Tell and Kirk and the choices they made. Schrader writes complex characters and puts them in situations that reach a boiling point, and it is invigorating to watch. His choice to have another poker player be a fraternity-like bro wearing American flag getup while chanting with his friends, USA, USA, when he eliminates another opponent was bold. Seeing this crossed with what we learn about Will Tell makes for an interesting discussion. Oscar Isaac is brilliant here. He flat out makes the film work. You can see so much going on behind his eyes as he surveys a room. Ty Sheridan, also excellent. Just when you think you have his character figured out, he changes things up. And Tiffany Haddish in a dramatic turn, I have to say, I did not have a problem with her like I do in some of her past films. While the card counter may not be as daring as First Reformed, it is another strong work from Schrader, one I am recommending, Matt K.
All right. So the obvious first question here is, where does this rank in Schrader's filmography when you're talking about Raging Bull and Taxi Driver and that kind of stuff?
Yes, I mean, it's not quite up there with those big boys, you know.
Or even First Reformed, you're saying? Yeah,
I would say this is more on that level of First Reformed, which I thought was excellent, but I don't think it's quite as good as First Reformed. But he's hitting a lot of the same points where it's a character with a complex, you know, past that's thinking about the situation that he's in. You could see you could see the path that he took to get to the card counter from First Reform. It makes sense that this followed up. Also, card counter. So he's playing blackjack, not poker, right? Well, he plays both. He does. Okay. You can count cards, and I'm sure it helps you.
In poker? I guess you can, kind of.
Yeah. But he does start playing blackjack. Yeah. And then that's just a skill he picked up while he's in prison. This is in the very early moments of the movie, so I'm not spoiling anything. This was just what he did, made a skill for himself while he was in prison, was counting cards. And then he basically would go around to, you know, small time casinos. We're not talking Vegas. And he would just make enough money, not one of these guys that was going, you know, to make
bring down the house. Yeah.
Right. And he doesn't want all the eyes on him. It's more like, hey, let me go make a few $100, walk away, get a meal, get a hotel room, keep to myself kind of thing. And then things start to open up from there, you know, as he meets people from his past.
Interesting. Was there a jaw-dropping moment here?
There was. And this is going to get us into the squeamish movie scenes. There is an interrogation scene when we have a flashback to when he was in the military. And I don't even know what this camera angle or device is used exactly, but I'm going to describe it as best I can here. Schrader uses what I would call as like a rolling fisheye camera lens. So like
I know what a fisheye is, but how's it rolling?
So it's almost like it's rolling to the sides. The image is rolling to both right and left as you go down a hallway.
Probably like a rack focus on a fisheye lens or something.
Possibly. And he uses this to really get you into that vibe of how crazy of a scene it was when there's multiple people being interrogated in one type of like prison setting, and they're walking through the hallway, seeing all the chaos and how chaotic of a scene it was just in general. And that camera angle really makes that scene. I mean, it's awesome.
Is it like looking through a peephole, like in a hotel room?
Not quite a peephole. No, that's why I don't know if I want to necessarily say a fisheye, but definitely the center is still. And then as he moves, everything would either roll to the right or left or both at the same time.
Like
really
when
wild.
Frodo first sees the ring wraith and you get that scene. That's a push pull. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, but that would be my jaw dropping moment. The interrogation scene in the card counter.
Nice. You got a movie poster quote for us?
I want something simple here. I said this film is aces.
Yeah, it's pretty on the nose. How many jaws are you giving it?
3 jaws for the card counter. It is in theaters and on HBO Max. Jawheads, if you see it, you agree, disagree, just want to comment on this review, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw, or you can always email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. Oscar Isaac, I really liked him here. I mean, very, very strong performance. So I wanted to ask Shayna if you have a favorite Oscar Isaac performance.
Well, let's see. I liked him in Llewyn Davis. Is that the name of that movie?
Inside Llewyn Davis.
Oh, yeah, that one. But I think he's always good, even in movies that I don't like. I didn't love that movie with him and Jessica Chastain.
Oh,
a most violent.
I gotta fix my list.
I was gonna throw it into the fishbowl. Okay, yes, most violent year. But I think he's so good in it. He's just great. He's so fun to watch.
I agree. He's definitely like, he's got such a broad range too. You know, like he can do semi-comedic stuff. He can do some pretty dark, almost horror type stuff. And he's always fun to watch. And then he's in like Star Wars. He's Poe Dameron, you know?
He's going to be in the upcoming Dune.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Can't wait for it.
He's at the top of his game, I think. I actually had written down A Most Violent Year, but I'll sub it out. I hope you don't have this one, Ryan, but I would go with the role that I think he's the most chameleon-like in, which is Ex Machina. Like, I didn't even know that was Oscar Isaac. And to be fair, he was still lesser known at that time, but I like the first 30 minutes of the movie, I didn't recognize him. He's completely just in disguise in the film. And it's a great performance. This is really only him and the other principal actor, and obviously Alicia Vikander. So, he had a lot of weight on his shoulders in that movie.
Yeah, he was excellent in there. Two questions I want to throw into the fish tank, Phil, before I go on with mine was, who directed A Most Violent Year? And
I
then
J.C. Chandor.
Oh, wow. Well,
Is it okay to?
Bing.
Yeah, just spoil Phil's job. Absolutely. That's great. Just ruin Phil. And then also, what year Inside Llewyn Davis came out? Shayna?
I don't know that one.
Okay, good. Throw that one in the fish tank, Phil. But my pick for favorite performance is Inside Llewyn Davis. And the reason why I wanted to know the year that it came out is, like you just mentioned, Matt, with Ex Machina, I wasn't as familiar with Oscar Isaac.
Sure.
Up until that point. So seeing it then, I don't think I appreciated as much as like years later, thinking, oh my God, this guy's really got range, because he plays a folk singer in this Coen Brothers movie. I just thought he was sort of a folk singer type guy, but now I look at it like, what a performance that was. He totally had me, believing everything in that movie. So I love him in Inside Llewyn Davis. It's a wonderful film. So
quick honorable Annihilation opposite Natalie Portman. It's a small role for him, but there's a lot of gruesome scenes, lots of squeamishness.
So I wrote down one, not a film, but a limited series that ran on HBO. It's only 6 episodes. Excellent, Jawheads. It's called Show Me a Hero. And this was, he played the guy's name. I don't know the name of it, but he became the youngest mayor in the United States of a major city. And he ran for office opposing the court rulings on scattered site public housing that was going on in New York, with a lot of residents, upset that they were going to put public housing in their neighborhood. And he ran against this ruling, and everybody got behind him. It sort of divided the whole entire city. Excellent kind of city politics show, and
cool,
brilliant performance by Oscar Isaac. Show Me a Hero. So hidden gem there, Matt.
Well done. I like a good limited series.
Next question I got for you, Shayna, here is, we're talking about the card counter, and it does have gambling scenes. Matt'll like, especially the early on ones, when he actually explains what it's like to count cards at a blackjack table. Matt, it's right up your alley when he's talking about, like, when these cards show up, you add one. He's got all this whole system, and it's pretty fascinating. Got me thinking about great gambling moments in movies. It's always a dramatic scene, could be funny. Shayna, do you have a favorite in mind?
I do. I have several, if that's okay.
Yeah.
First of all, I love the movie Swingers.
Yeah.
This, that is a very, that movie is very important to me, even though, it's very sexist, but I love that movie.
And of course, you're talking about the scene with Mikey and Trent when they are playing blackjack, and he doesn't know if he should double down.
Yeah. I just think it's so funny and amazing, and I just love it. And I also really love, California Split, the Robert Altman movie.
No,
I have not seen this movie.
Well, there's the beginning is like this gambling scene, and it's all shot very Robert Altman-y. So it's like these like slow zooms, and every single person is mic'd. You know how he does this? He puts like lavaliers on everyone. And so it kind of like the audio is really amazing, which adds to it. It's just a really cool scene. Like it's not a good scene the way that the Swingers one is. But it's like cinematically it's just really cool, and it's neat to watch, and it feels like you're just actually there. So yeah, you can just watch that scene even on YouTube.
What's the name of the film? California Split?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Another one? Do you get another one?
I also I remember loving The Hangover.
Oh, yeah.
I can't exactly remember what happens in it, but I remember, you know what else I was thinking? I don't know if this counts, but I might have to throw the name into the Big Short. Do you guys remember that?
Sure.
Okay, so you know the scene with I think it's Selena Gomez, right? And she's anyways when they're explaining things.
Remember they always cut away to
there
There's
was
Anthony
like Margot
Bourdain.
Robbie, and there was
Selena
Gomez, right?
Yeah, so Anthony Bourdain does the one with the fish. Anyways, but I think it's Selena Gomez who explains something in a casino, and even though that's not a gambling scene, technically it is sort of. And I remember watching that and loving that. I didn't love the Margot Robbie one. Robbie. Anyways, I didn't love that one, but I loved the Anthony Bourdain fish one, and I loved the gambling one. I just thought it was such a neat way to explain something. So that's kind of like not exactly a gambling scene, but it sort of.
I think it counts.
Okay, cool. I thought it was cool.
Hell yeah. Those are good picks. All right. Mine are pretty pedestrian by comparison here, but I'm a sucker for John Malkovich doing a terrible Russian accent in the movie Rounders when he's like, "It's my club and I'll splash the pot all I want." He sounds like Boris from Bullwinkle. It's terrible. I just can't imagine the director was really happy when Malkovich started doing that. But how do you tell Malkovich no? You know, you'd be like, "Okay, you're John Malkovich. You go right ahead and do Boris from Bullwinkle."
It worked.
If I had to pick another one, I would go with the poker night scenes from Goodfellas. And these are the scenes when Spider gets shot by oh man, I'm blanking on the character's name. Joe Pesci's character. Anyway, can't remember his name. Throw it in the fish tank. I can't believe I'm forgetting this. But at first he shoots him in the foot, you know, and then a couple weeks later at the next poker night, poor Spider gets it right in the chest. It's a hell of a couple of scenes. Not exactly about gambling per se, but they are playing poker.
Yep. I wrote down a few also. One of them was Swingers, Mikey and Trent. I just adore the scene. But being absolutely honest, the more I thought about it, the scene, and it's rather recent, that came up that I thought captured how tense a gambling scene can be, and this was sports gambling, was the ending scene in Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler in the Safdie Brothers movie. And this is where he bets this crazy like trifecta bet on basketball. Kevin Garnett's involved because he thinks he's, touched this magic gem and he's going to have these points. It starts out, the first bet of the trifecta is that Kevin Garnett's going to win the jump ball. So if he doesn't get the jump ball at the beginning of the game, he loses the bet automatically. It's just hilarious that he's got that much money riding on the first bet has to go to the jump ball to Kevin Garnett for it to lead into the next. I love Uncut Gems.
That is a great choice, dude.
The other one is, I've talked about this numerous times on the Jaw, Let It Ride with Richard Dreyfuss, where he goes to the racetrack and he just keeps betting everything that he wins. This is classic Richard Dreyfuss. Throw it in the Jaw box. What year Let It Ride came out? It's got to be like, I don't know, late 80s, early 90s. I have somewhere around there.
Mid 80s, I'd guess.
Okay, yeah. And then lastly, this is a big one, Matt, because it launched the entire Star Wars universe. I'm going when Qui-Gon Jinn gambled on the pod race to free up Anakin Skywalker from slavery.
Nerdy pick, but yeah, okay. I love Star Wars, just not that Star Wars movie.
Right.
He could have cheated. He had the Force, right? He's using the Force to make the dice roll what he wants it to be. So
it doesn't work that way, Matt.
It does work that way. That's exactly how the Force works. He could have made the other pod racers crash. If he's willing to cheat at a dice roll, why not do that?
Matt, I'm using the Force right now to shut you up.
All right.
Here we go. So I mentioned how Oscar Isaac in this film, The Card Counter, comes off very mysterious for a long time. It takes a long time to get to his past and start to understand where he's coming from. And that got me thinking about great mysterious characters in movies. And this is a great topic. Again, Shayna, we'll start with you. A mysterious character, a favorite of yours.
This is sort of strange, but there's this Elaine May movie. I think it's her first movie. It's called A New Leaf. And it's her and Walter Matthau. And I believe she's an heiress. And he like marries her, you know, for her money. But anyways, he's a very mysterious character in that. And it's very funny. Very, very, very funny. But I feel like that character is definitely, as soon as I read that question, I thought of him in that movie. He's very proper, but clearly also has no real money. Anyways, but I just like that character, and I think he's, you know, he gets unpacked through the movie. Sure.
And the name of the movie is A New Leaf?
Yeah. There's a hilarious scene in it that is just amazing, where she comes out wearing a sheet, like a toga, and he has to like fix the toga for her. And it's just like slapstick comedy at its best. Like he's like, raise your hand, and she raises the wrong hand. And I don't know, I'm not doing it justice, but it's so funny. I loved it. So I couldn't believe, I was just like blown away when I saw it.
I love me some Walter Matthau. So
he's amazing. Yeah.
No doubt. I'll go back for that one. I got V for Vendetta, the character V.
Honorable mention for me.
Really? I thought this one was kind of a lame pick, but I love the graphic novel. I've read it so many times. The movie, I think, is good. It's solid. It was not Viggo Mortensen. Agent Smith. Help me, Rye. I don't want to have to throw this one in the fish tank. Hugo Weaving. Hugo Weaving does the voice, but we never see V's face. We never really satisfactory get to know his backstory in any kind of real way. There's just bits and flashes as to what led him to be taking the actions he's taking, which are pretty extreme. And it's a great movie. It's really a really good examination of anarchy, which I appreciate.
Yeah, honorable mention for me. I went with a villain. I think those make some great mysterious characters, and I went with Javier Bardem as Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men. And, you know, we know he's like a bounty hunter, hitman kind of character, but there's this whole mysterious side of exactly what his motivation is, right? He doesn't seem like a guy that's in it for the money. He's clearly
just a psychopath.
He's clearly not good at taking directions or orders on things. So there's just this mystery about him it makes him just that more eerie. Like it adds to the level of evilness from that character. And I think that's one of the strong points of No Country for Old Men. So I love him. And not to mention, he has one of the best movie weapons, the cattle gun, to blow people away. Not to mention, he flips a coin, call it friendo, and that determines the person's fate. Very strange. Kaiser Sose?
Yeah, Mysterious? That's a good one.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. And then I just got to give him credit because it was played by Tom Cruise, but he played a hitman in Collateral. And it's Tom Cruise, so we always feel so comfortable with him, but there's never like any backstory on why, Vincent is doing what he's doing. He's just got this list of people he needs to, go to Los Angeles and knock out. And there's something worked there where it made it like uncomfortable to be watching Tom Cruise on the big screen.
Maybe it's because it was Tom Cruise,
It did. It totally worked. It completely did exactly that because we're so used to seeing friendly Tom Cruise running across the screen, but this was completely different. So
I got a quick honorable, since we're celebrating Clint Eastwood. How about the man with no name himself?
Mysterious.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have a name. So there you go.
So we promised this question up at the front. We were talking about squeamish moments in movies, scenes that just got you like, oh, I can't even look. Matt, you probably still cover your eyes every once in a while. And probably, Shayna, you do too. I can just tell. Is there a scene that really got you to squirm that you want to mention?
So I just rewatched the movie The Heat with Melissa McCarthy and Sandra Bullock.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
And do you guys remember the scene where, so she's like Sandra Bullock has watched on television someone do, what is that, like a tracheotomy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That freaks me the hell out.
I hate it so much. I love that movie. It's so funny. And I watched it recently when I was giving birth in the hospital. It was on the TV and I was watching it. And I was like, oh God, I hate this scene. Because she does it. She's like, they're in a diner and someone chokes on something and she does the thing and they really show you. It's so gross. It's horrible. I don't know why they do that. But anyways, I hated that scene when I saw it in the movie theater, and I hated it most recently when I watched the movie. And I love that movie in general, but that scene is just so gross.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. Maybe there's some kind of specific phobia, but that freaks me out too.
Ugh.
Like, I can't do it.
No.
Is it okay if I go next, Rye? I got a good one.
Why don't you, Matt? I mean, really.
We're talking about spaghetti westerns a lot, but there is a whole subgenre of spaghetti zombie movies, Italian-made zombie films. One in particular is just entitled Zombie with an I. And there is a very slow eye injury scene where a zombie, and this is a highly acclaimed zombie movie. It's up there with Romero stuff. A hand reaches through a shattered door and grabs a character by the hair, and you see the camera just focus on the eye as the zombie slowly pulls the person toward a splinter of wood. And this unfolds over what feels like an hour. I mean, it's just this laborious, slow, oh my God, they're going to get it right in the eye. And then sure enough, they get a splinter of wood that becomes like an entire steak right through the eye. It happens slow, deliberately, and it's one of the most difficult things to watch. It's gory, but it made me scream.
Of course, Matt sent me this today, the YouTube clip of it. So
did you watch it?
I did watch it. Yeah.
It's pretty good, isn't it? Decent special effects for the time.
I would say the anticipation of the splinter about to go in the eye is way better than the actual penetrating of the eye. Once it hits to that point, it's like, doesn't look so good. And it didn't make me
absolutely. It releases the tension at that point. You're like, yeah, because it's happened already. And then it's like,
oh, I see. It's a rubber mask.
Right.
Yeah. What else you got?
The hobbling scene in Misery. I don't care how many times I watch this scene. When I guess maybe it's just the way that James Caan is pleading, because we're so used to him being the tough guy and sort of not in this vulnerable position. And Annie Wilkes just takes the hammer and they show it. It's really, really rough. And it's another one where the anticipation may be worse than the actual special effect, even though the effect was pretty gruesome. But just the pain, the acting in that scene, like everything about it is well written, well acted. It's a great one.
That's better than your zombie pick. You should have went with that one, Matt.
I got one more.
Lead with that next time. Go ahead.
One more. This one messed me up for like a week. In fact, just thinking about it now still messes me up. And I'm trying not to go with disturbing stuff, just like actual squeamish stuff. But this one's both. And it was the cliff scene in Midsommar when the elders do the ritual suicide and jump off the cliff. And one of them, let's just say, doesn't stick the landing. And so another, cult member has to come and finish the job with a large mallet. And it's just horrifying, and definitely the most gruesome part of that movie. And yeah, I walked away still thinking about that scene that night. It's so realistic too. It's just disgusting.
I love that movie. Midsommar.
It's a good movie.
So great. So I went two different ways on this one. One, because when I came up with this question was due to this interrogation scene in the card counter. So that got me thinking of like torture and interrogating scenes, which brought me back to Syriana. And it's a 2005 film. George Clooney is the one being tortured. And the moment where I remember like covering my eyes was when they put like almost basically like pliers onto his fingernails and just start to rip his fingernails off of his finger.
Dude, this is gross.
Oh
we should have led with this and then cleansed the palate with the gambling scenes or something.
It was so gross. It's just absolutely awful. I mean, the entire scene is tough to watch, but that particular moment of seeing someone's fingernails get ripped off, really rough. And I felt so bad because George has got such beautiful fingernails.
He does.
Well manicured, and to see those come off, terrible. The second one that I came up with was 127 Hours, where James Franco falls down, gets his arm pinned in a rock. And we had all heard about this scene going into it. It's a true story about how a man finally hit the breaking point and realized he was either going to die or he was going to have to cut off his own arm to get out of this pinned rock. And I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was. But then when you see that he was basically going to attempt this with a dull butter knife, this was not an easy cut by any means. It was something that he had to saw on his arm for, better part of an hour to cut his arm through. Oof. Oh, so gross. That was a tough part to watch, but an excellent movie. Both Syriana and 127 Hours. I highly recommend both films. So I think we grossed everybody out now. Dude. I don't know if anybody's even listening anymore. The podcast has probably just been turned off everywhere.
Yeah. Well done, man.
If we missed your favorite Squeamish scene and you have Twitter pulled up, we'd love to hear a good story about how you almost threw up or you had to close your eyes. Shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw, or you can write us feedback@cinemajaw.com. We are going to take a quick break, and we come back. We have a cinema war plus Matt versus Shayna in Clint Eastwood movie trivia. Stick with us.
Clint Eastwood has had several signature characters over the years, but perhaps none more enigmatic, masculine, and iconic than the Drifter, aka the man with no name. Though he rarely spoke in Sergio Leone's spaghetti western trilogy, he did defend the honor of his mule in this scene from A Fistful of Dollars.
Adios, amigo. Listen, stranger. Did you get the idea? We don't like to see bad boys like you in town. Go get your mule. You let him get away from you?
You see, that's what I want to talk to you about. He's feeling real bad.
Huh?
My mule. You see, he got all riled up when you men fired those shots at his feet.
Hey, you making some kind of joke?
No. You see, I understand you men were just playing around, but the mule, he just doesn't get it. Of course, if you were to all apologize... I don't think it's nice, you laughing. You see, my mule don't like people laughing. It's the crazy idea you're laughing at him. Now, if you apologize like I know you're going to, I might convince him that you really didn't mean it.
I saw the whole thing. You killed all four of them. You'll pay all right. You'll be strung up.
Who are you?
Don't fire a shot. I'm John Baxter, sheriff.
Yeah, Well, if you're the sheriff, you better get these men on the ground.
Hey, Jawheads! We're continuing our celebration of Clint Eastwood Month, and we want you guys to join in on the fun too. If you don't know where to start, we've got a couple of really great Clint Eastwood picks available on different popular streaming services. Unforgiven and Gran Torino are on HBO Max this month. The Outlaw Jose Wales and his directed film Mystic River are on Netflix. $1 Million Baby can be found on both Netflix and HBO Max. A Fistful of Dollars and Escape from Alcatraz are on Amazon Prime. Hang 'em High, featuring not only Clint Eastwood, but a very young Bruce Dern, is available on the free service Hoopla provided by your local library, and In the Line of Fire is playing for free with ads on Pluto TV. We hope you guys check out at least one of those films and enjoy Clint Eastwood Month this September.
And we are back on Cinemajaw, hanging out with filmmaker Shayna Feinberg, whose web series entitled DINETTE is out now. It's on season 2. If you could keep going, are you just going to keep going with DINETTE? Season 3, season 4? You said earlier that you worked on a show that went 7 years. Does DINETTE have that in it?
It would be fun. I didn't think I would do season 2. After I finished season 1, I thought that was it. And then some time went by and I had the opportunity. And so I did it. And I think if I got the opportunity to do season 3, I would. It's really fun to shoot because it's just it's a lot of my friends and it's just so many people and it's very goofy. So if I get the opportunity, sure, why not?
Out of curiosity, how many days did you guys shoot for season 2?
6 days.
Wow,
and it was like 79 pages and 6 days, and the last episode has a marching band in it, and it's a big ensemble cast, so
lots of logistics. Yeah.
It was a lot. Yeah.
I noticed on your IMDb page that you have short films. Are these also out on YouTube that people can check out?
Most of my stuff is on Vimeo.
Okay.
I should update my IMDb. Anyways, but there's probably a bunch of the stuff on IMDb are things that I was hired for. But I have a Vimeo page that has a bunch of my short films, and that would be a better place to see my stuff.
You have a website too. I saw a bunch of your stuff on your website.
Yeah, ShaynaFeinberg.com. Yeah, that's like this spring. My husband and I did a series of these short portrait docs that were really fun. We interviewed people. I interviewed people just with audio for 45 minutes, and I would find the story while we were talking, and then we would shoot it after that. And that was really fun to do, sort of as people were emerging from the pandemic, although now we're going back. We're retreating. Yeah. but yeah, and I've done a ton of short films. And I've made so much stuff. I'm not precious. I just love to make things.
That's awesome.
I love it. Yeah. Jawheads, do check out her work, DINETTE, and short films on Vimeo and her website, ShaynaFeinberg.com. Matt, before we get to trivia and before we get to Cinema War, we did throw a few items into that fish tank, and I know Phil, he wants to swim up to the top. So let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
Fishy! Wake up! No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, get some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Thank you guys so much. We did have a few questions in here from you guys, and then there was even one I threw in myself.
Ooh.
Because I refuse to believe that I'm the only stupid idiot out there who did not know what an autodidact was. One, what I learned is that Matt didn't pronounce it autodidact. It's not. There's no
it's
CH.
Autodidact. Nobody says autodidact.
No one says autodidact. It's not a word I heard of. When was this coming around in your vernacular, Matt? This is
it's self-taught, dude. Come on, read a book or two.
You know what? And I do. I'm gonna fight back on that and say that I am self-taught because I taught myself what this word meant. Because
Not
you
that word.
certainly
I
didn't.
taught you.
You just bullied. No, you didn't. You did not teach. You made that so much so that I had to look it up.
Wait, but I used a word you hadn't heard, and then you had to look it up.
Teaching me exactly. I had to teach myself what it meant. I
So
could teach.
what you're
I
saying
could say
is
a lot of things.
You're an autodidact.
That's exactly what my point is, Matt.
Okay.
Yes, you are correct. It's a person who is self-taught, and I apologize if Matt made you feel bad for not knowing that either, listeners. The next one, the rest of these are so uncontroversial, so there will be no finger pointing whatsoever. What year did Inside Llewyn Davis come out? That was 2013.
Wow. So we're talking 8 years already. That's crazy. So, yeah, that was an early introduction into Oscar Isaac for me.
He's huge now, but at that time, not so much.
I think that's all the Disney.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
What was the name of Joe Pesci's character in Goodfellas? That was Tommy DeVito.
I wanted to say DeVito, but then I thought I was getting him confused with Danny DeVito. So, all right, thank you.
And they really just call him Tommy the whole time, right?
Tommy, yeah.
Yeah.
And then our last one was what year did Let It Ride come out? And that one was 1989.
That's what I said. Late 80s, 90. Yeah, I was right on there. Good film, Jawheads. Check that one out. Was that everything, Phil?
That's all we got.
All right, jump back in that fish tank.
You bet.
Matt, it brings us to a segment called
Cinema War.
And the war, it works like this. Me and Matt were fighting on a topic. Our guest, our jury this week, Shayna Feinberg, gets to tell the Jawheads who she thinks won this cinema war. And it's important because we're fighting for 20 seconds of jaw time to rant and rave on whatever we want. It's like clockwork. Matt makes a bold, dumb statement on the jaw. Phil, what are we talking about this week on Cinema War?
I want to be perfectly clear that this is a tough position for me to be in because it is impossible for me to be impartial on this one, but I will do my best. So we've been making this show for a while now, and as if you're doing it as long as we have, about a decade, you're bound to say some things that are a little controversial, and that's exactly what this Cinema War comes down to. Last week on the show, Matt Kay made the comment that the editing Oscar is a pity award, and it's ruffled some feathers, and we're here to settle the score. Matt is going to explain his point and tell us exactly why the Best Editing Oscar is the Best Losers Award. And Rye the Movie Guy has to argue that it's a great award and the editing can make or break a whole movie. Which side will win? Maybe I'll edit it and make the right answer. Let the Cinema War begin.
Matt, you come off as a real gas bag sometimes. And last week was a perfect example. Editing a pity Oscar? Nothing could be further from the truth. The only excuse I can make for you is the fact that film editing is often referred to as the invisible art, because when it is well practiced, the viewer can become so engaged that they are not aware of the editor's work.
I want to make something perfectly clear. This is not about editing, okay? This is about the editing Oscar. I want to respect the hard work and talent of editors. I've edited and I know that it's hard, but to the Academy, the award isn't also ran. And it's just time to face that fact. On Wikipedia's entry for the list of the Academy Awards, editing is listed second to last, even after Best Costume Design. It's an extra bullet in their gun.
Oh, come on, Matt. I quote here from the great Philip Seymour Hoffman. He said, "The film is made in the editing room. The shooting of the film is about shopping almost. It's like going to get all the ingredients together, and you've got to make sure before you leave the store that you have all the ingredients. But then when you come home, you take those ingredients and you try to make a good cake out of it."
I agree. Again, I'm arguing about the Oscar. You're arguing about editing. Here's the proof. For 33 years, Ryan, in a row from 1981 to 2013. And honestly, I think that's an old fact and this is still running. Every Best Picture winner was also nominated for the Best Film Editing Oscar. And about 2/3 of the Best Picture winners have also won the film for best editing. So what's the point? That's redundant.
No, it's not. And I had that same point here, but in my favor, because it's no fluke. That's not at all a fluke. Great editing is what makes great movies. So they go hand in hand. Film fans all know this. Matt Kay does not. Maybe you can't notice it while watching on your tiny little phone.
No, I agree. But then they should be the same thing. They don't have to be two separate. Look, let's look at last year's best editing winner, The Sound of Metal, also nominated for Best Picture. Are you going to sit there and tell me that it had better editing than the Mobius strip of a narrative structure that was Tenet? Say what you will about Tenet, but its structure, the beginning being the end, is an editor's nightmare. Sound of Metal wasn't even in that ballpark, but it deserved some kind of award, didn't it?
Matt, movies with multiple storylines or films like 1917 that try to come off as a single shot. How about switching from black and white to color, animation to live action? We've seen all of this unfold on the big screen, and they are all memorable moments. Why? Because a talented editor sat through hours and hours of film to pick out the right shot and knew when to make the cut to the next. Editing is not a pity Oscar. It's one of the most important things to celebrate here, Matt.
It's a pity Oscar. The lay person doesn't even know what constitutes good or bad editing. And I would venture to say that the average Academy voter doesn't either. Visual effects, costumes, we understand that. But editing, like you said, is the invisible art. It's ethereal and harder to pinpoint when done correctly. Either way, Phil, just edit this so I win. The best editing Oscar should mean more, Ryan, but it has been misused, Ryan, as a pity Oscar.
Wow. We are button heads here on Cinema War. We throw it to our guest, our jury. Shayna, what did you think of this Cinema War?
I have to say, this is actually really difficult for me because
this is a tough one.
And it is. And in some ways, I actually don't even think that you're on opposite sides. I mean, I think both of you are arguing that editing is super important, which I 100% agree with. Would you guys say that you're both arguing that?
We are both arguing that, I guess. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I agree with you 100%. Like, I think for me as a filmmaker, pretty much, I'd say like 90% of the time it's happening in the edit. And that I'm the kind of filmmaker that's very exciting. So in that way, I agree with both of you. Editing is super duper important. I was going to originally go with Matt because I do agree. I haven't decided yet. Okay. I'm just breaking down my process. I was originally going to go with you, Matt, because I agree that I think that the Academy doesn't really care about the editing award. So in that way, I agree with you that it's like a pity award. And the fact that it's like at the bottom of the list is terrible and embarrassing. So at first I was going to agree with you because I was like, yeah, you know what? It is a pity award, even though it shouldn't be because it's the most important. But then, I don't know, then the more that I listened, I started to go with Rye, the film guy, just thinking, like, you know, obviously it is super important. And I don't know if I feel like if I agree with you, Matt, then I'm saying that it's not important, but I don't even think that's what you're saying.
No.
You know, but I feel like you both made really good points, but then Rye won me over with the 1917, the single shot thing. So I think I'm gonna go with you.
Thank you.
But I have to say, ultimately, I actually don't think that either of you you're not really opposing each other. And I think that maybe some of your jawheads got angry about what Matt said, but I don't actually think that Matt is saying what people think he's saying.
Thank you, Shayna.
But, you know.
I feel vindicated even though Ryan won. So thank you.
Well, I mean, thank you for the win. You picked the right choice here. Phil doesn't have to edit the ending here, which is good. But in the context, what we were talking about too wasn't about like the awards necessarily. We were talking about which movie was better. I already forget which one. And I had mentioned that it had won, X amount of Academy Awards. And you're like, well, that's just a pity award. Like it didn't matter it was more the anger that you were saying that it just didn't matter.
Wait, I want to correct. I called you Rye the film guy, and
Right.
you're Rye the movie guy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm sure Rye, the film guy who's out there somewhere, maybe in Kansas City, is really pissed right now. So we don't want to confuse, you know. I'll use my 20 seconds to.
I thought you already did.
Well, down to 5 seconds. We do have some Toronto International Film Festival coverage. Not going to Toronto this year, but doing it virtually from home. So do check out all our social media. We'll be on Instagram, sharing reviews, quick takes, and then also my Letterboxd, Ride the Movie Guy on Letterboxd. I'll have reviews of everything that I see at TIFF this year, 2021.
When is TIFF this
Starts tomorrow. From this recording, starts tomorrow. By the time people hear this, it will be going on for a few days already.
I just want to put out there that is my ideal film festival, and I hope to someday go there.
I was lucky enough to go a couple years ago when Parasite was there and Jojo Rabbit. It was one of the best weeks, honestly, of my life. Just right up my alley. You know, I knew a lot of people there from Chicago that went there. It had like a vacation feel, but a film festival. Like it's everything that I would
get
want
to interview
in a week.
Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, I got to talk to Eddie Murphy. Did red carpet. Got to see all kinds of people like Meryl Streep, and it was awesome. So
awesome,
great time. All right, Matt. That does bring us to a very fun segment. As I mentioned, I was disappointed with how our multiple choice movie trivia went last week, so I cleaned it up. Clint Eastwood movie trivia. Okay. This is what we're doing here. He is known as an actor and a director, and he does both. He puts himself as the star and director in a lot of his movies. So that's your three choices. I'm going to give you the movie, maybe what it's about, and all you got to say is he acted in it, he directed it, or he did both. Pretty simple. 1, 2, or 3.
Got it.
Shayna, got it?
Got it.
Acting in it, directing in it, or both?
Okay.
Now, you're our guest. You get to choose if you want to go first or let Matt go first. And there are steals.
I'm going to break the seal here, and I'll go first.
Okay. Question number 1 over to Shayna. Clint Eastwood. The movie is 2011's J. Edgar.
I'm going to say directed.
That is correct. He only directed. DiCaprio was J. Edgar. Armie Hammer, one of his early roles. But Clint Eastwood, not in it. So it is 1-0 Shayna. Question 2 over to Matt K. Matt, 2003's Mystic River.
Directed.
That is correct also. It is 1-1. Everybody's perfect on the softballs here.
Sean
they gradually get harder. Here we go. Question 3 over to Shayna. 1997's Absolute Power, about a master jewel thief who witnesses the killing of a woman by a Secret Service agent.
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm going to say both.
That is correct. All right. It's going much smoother this time. See,
were you envisioning your mom's collage of Clint Eastwood when you were thinking of the answer?
No, you know what I'm doing? I have like a theory that if it's really early, he acted in it. And if it's later, he most likely directed it. And if it's in the middle, he did both. But that's totally just a made up theory.
Okay. Well, we'll see where it goes.
But I'm going to play by that rule.
2-1. 2-1 Shayna. Question 5 over to Matt K. Matt, 1993's A Perfect World. This was about an escaped convict who takes a young boy hostage and attempts to escape on the road with the child.
93. I'm going to go with Shayna's advice here and say acted.
That is incorrect.
Damn it.
Incorrect. Shayna, you got a chance for a steal here. He did not just act in it.
Well, I mean, that one I would say, Matt, is in the middle. Because like early, like he's 91.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So I would say, I'm going to say both.
That is correct. Wow. That is correct. It is now 3-1 Shayna, and question 6 is over to her. 1989 Pink Cadillac, about a bounty hunter and a group of white supremacists chasing after an innocent woman who tries to outrun everyone in her husband's pink Cadillac.
Okay, I'm gonna not follow my own advice here and say just acted.
That is correct. Unbelievable. She is on a roll.
Nicely done.
4-1. Matt, question 7 is over to you. 1993's In the Line of Fire.
1993's In the Line of Fire.
This is a film about a delusioned and obsessed CIA agent who attempts to assassinate the president of the United States.
Yeah. He does a lot of like walking next to the presidential motorcade in this movie. I'm going to say, I don't know if he actually directed this. I think it was somebody else. I'm going to say acted.
That is correct. 4-2. That was actually question 6. Sorry. Question 7 is over to Shayna. 1995's The Bridges of Madison County.
Let's say both.
She is on fire. She can't miss. She has won this one. It is now 5-2. Last question of the game is over to Matt K. Matt, 1971's Play Misty for Me, which follows a radio disc jockey being stalked by an obsessed female fan.
I've honestly never even heard of this. So it's acted, directed, or both?
Right.
And this is 71?
71, Play Misty for Me.
Gotten behind the camera in the 70s. I don't know if he had yet. I'm going to say acted.
That is incorrect.
Wow.
Shayna, chance for a steal?
Oh, gosh. What's it called?
Play Misty for Me.
And it's a radio DJ?
Yeah, he played a radio DJ who was being stalked by an obsessed female fan. The female fan was Sissy Spacek.
Oh, okay. I'm going to say both.
That is correct.
Wow.
She clobbered you, Matt. 6-2. Walloped you.
I mean, I honestly just went on. It was like my gut. That was it.
Your gut is good.
1971's Play Misty for Me is Clint Eastwood's directorial debut. There you go. I got a fact for you late.
Which is over.
Phil's not the only one that can do Eastwood facts on this show. There you go. That was his debut. If it came down to a tie, we call it a jawbreaker. This question would have been over to Shayna. Clint Eastwood, better actor or better director?
I mean, this is just my opinion.
No, this is the jawbreaker. This is the tiebreaker.
Oh, so you know the answer?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, I personally think he's a better actor.
Incorrect. It's better director. It's a joke. It's a joke, you see?
I just love seeing his face.
He's really good at both. I mean, tough to decide.
The real jawbreaker was this: age of his Madison County co-star, Meryl Streep. How old is Meryl?
Her age now?
Yeah. How old is Meryl? Matt, you got a guess?
Meryl Streep. Yeah. I would say she's 71.
Lock him in at 71. Shayna, you got a guess?
That's what I was going to say. Am I allowed to say that?
You could do Prices Right. Go over or under.
I'll say 72.
She's 72.
You're on fire.
I'm so lucky tonight. I should play the lotto.
Yeah, unbelievable. Wow. Can I get a virtual handshake here?
Yes, well
Shayna,
done. Virtual fist bump there.
the floor with you, Matt K. That was awesome. So
that was.
It was a lot of fun. It brings us to the end of a great jaw. And first and foremost, we got to thank Shayna for coming on. This was a pleasure meeting you and a lot of fun to just talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Best of luck with DINETTE. And when you have something else coming on down the road, you got something coming out, come back on Cinemajaw.
Yeah, we'd love to have you again.
Thank you so much. It was really fun.
Yep. Matt, we also got to thank our sponsors.
Yes. Thanks to Overcast and to the Chicago Podcast Co-op, who help us get great sponsors like them.
And we got to thank our editor, Matt K. Our editor.
He deserves
and
an
producer. Oscar. Fill me in, Phil. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you guys so much. I don't know how much that means coming from you, Matt, but I'll take what I can get.
If you want to support Cinemajaw, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
And while you're there, please hit subscribe. One extra click really helps us out a ton.
Until next week, I'm Ryan, the movie guy.
I'm Matt K.
And keep on jawing about the movies.